Thanks for staying up later. Jay Leno with us tonight and tomorrow, just a few days away from officially becoming the host of The Tonight Show. Are you sick of this stuff by now?
No, it's fine, actually. I mean, it's all part of it. It's better than having people booing and throwing things at you like Iona Helmsley. So, no, this is fine, you know.
I get the impression that while anybody would be a little bit apprehensive, this isn't as overwhelming to you as some people might think it is. This is something you've kind of eased into.
Yeah. Also having the wisdom of an idiot, you know, you can just sort of blindly go through life like the fool and completely unaware of, you know, when you do it, you're in a studio and it feels like a cable access show. It's not till you go out there you realize how many people are actually watching the thing, you know. Plus, I've been doing it a long time. I've been guest hosting for 5 years, and I didn't get the show because, oh, I have the right look or this is what might appeal to people. When I started, there was no chance of getting this, I don't think. I mean, it was never brought up, it was never mentioned. It's just over the years, the ratings got good, or they like the monologues, they like the way we handle it. It just got down to, hey, maybe you might be right for this. Whatever you guys say.
What can you do on stage that you can't do on The Tonight Show? Because you don't work dirty, so in that sense, you would think that it would all transfer.
What do I do on stage? I won't, well, of course, my whole modern interpretive dance, the Harlem Dance Company. Probably
the tights
stories.
are flattering.
Probably stories. I mean, when you do The Tonight Show, people sit there with that clicker, you know, and if 15 seconds in there's not a laugh, they click, they go to the Hogan's Hero rerun or something, you know. So you need to move fairly quickly and be fairly topical. When you do a live stage show, you can tell a 5-minute story that has 3 or 4 laughs in it, but because it has a meter to it, you know, when you do an 1.5 or 2 hour comedy show, the stories are sort of the ballad part. You know, you get up there and you hit them with bang, bang, and politics and Clinton and Bush, and you da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And then about 20 minutes in, as people kind of get up to this frantic pace, you slow it down a bit. Spoke to my folks today, and you can tell a long, meandering story that that's amusing or has a nice feel, and then pick it up again, and you know, you break it up like that.
Is there stuff you won't use on The Tonight Show simply because it's part of your stage act? Well, let's say you've got 3 or 4 hours worth of material. Even if you parcel that out on The Tonight Show, pretty soon everybody's heard it and you got nothing to take to the stage.
You know, there's stuff you won't use on The Tonight Show because it's just not appropriate. You know, for example, I always, talking about airplanes, for example. I had a couple of airplane jokes a month or so back. Then you had that plane in LaGuardia where it iced up and it crashed, some people were killed. Okay, I'm in California. The jokes I had were airline food or something. Just making the connection, you don't realize what the sort of the X factor is once it's squared, you know? I mean, it's like when the plane went down in, when Pan Am 103 blew up. There were, I don't know, 300 people on the flight. But how many relatives, friends is that? 5,000? 10,000? So I didn't touch airplanes for 6 months or 7 months, only because you don't know where people are watching. You know, if you're in a club and it's filled with people and they're drinking and it's the second show, you can say whatever you want. You don't know whether people are lying in a hospital bed. Or, I mean, a good example of that would be the breast implant jokes. When people think of breast implants, they tend to think of the little starlet, you know, with the huge breasts coming out and some sort of joke. You don't think of a woman with reconstructive surgery or someone's had cancer or something. So if you're doing those breast implant jokes, you don't know if someone's lying in a hospital bed or somebody's mother's dying this or someone goes, oh, I got a tumor. So you just err on the side of taste, I think, which has been Johnny's great thing all the years.
So sort of connected to that on an individual basis, didn't Roseanne once ask you to stop doing jokes about her, and you just stopped?
Well, what had happened was I had seen Roseanne's special, and where she made fun of herself. So I was essentially doing the same jokes she said. And she said to me one day, you know, stop doing those jokes about me, you know, stop saying I'm fat, you know. I said, well, Roseanne, I only did it because you did it. Well, I don't like it. Hey, I'm not want to hurt your feelings, Roseanne. I like you. Okay, I won't do it. So I didn't.
So how much of this would you say is just Jay Leno, a guy who sees the humor in situations but really doesn't want to hurt anybody, and if there's any chance that he might, he stays away from it, and how much is modulating it, like some critics have said, because now I'm on The Tonight Show, so I can't have the edge I used to have?
Well, it depends what you're calling an edge. If you're hurting someone's feeling or something is a physical disability, I'll stop. If you're talking about a moron like David Duke or Pat Buchanan with all this throw the foreigners out stuff, there's nothing mean enough you could say. You know what I mean? It becomes if there's a moral issue involved, no, I'm not going to change it. If someone said, you know, David Duke was pretty hurt about the things you said about his cross burning. Well, I'm sorry. You know, if someone, like in Roseanne's situation, okay, fine, you know. You're not doing jokes about... People can change the way they act and change the things they say, especially if it's something so just morally wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so they're free game all the time. Again, it's just sort of common sense. I mean, the mistake a lot of comics make, I think, is you know, you win the battle, you lose the war. You can go out there and do all your women are stupid jokes and gays are this jokes and blacks are this jokes, and the audience will be laughing. But the next night, you know, when those 300 people show up at the picket signs, you know, I used to tell that to, sort of with Sam and Andrew Dice Clay, you know. When you're doing 6,000 seats and there are 300 people there picketing, you know. But when you're doing 500 seats and there are 300 picketing, you're in trouble. You know, people that like you for a while. People that hate you forever. They'll track you down the rest of your life. They'll show up everywhere. You'll never get away from them. You know, I mean, it's just common sense.
Does it befuddle you that some people don't like you? I don't mean as critics of your style, but if someone writes in and says, not, I objected to what you said, but you, Leno, are a creep.
I'm fine. That's okay. You know, you have to use the thing. One day I was at the Improv. It was like a Wednesday night, and there were like 30 people in the room. And Liza Minnelli walked in. And Bud said, oh, Liza, would you do a song? Oh, okay. She got up and she started singing. I listened for a few minutes, and I looked out in the hall, and I saw Seinfeld there, and I went, Jerry. I went out and I talked to Seinfeld, and someone said to me, you know, you walked out on Liza Minnelli. I said, oh, no, I like Liza. I just wanted to talk to my friend Jerry. You know, I'm not interested in singing. It's not I mean, she's nice, I like her, but I saw my friend, I wanted to talk to him, you know. And it's the same, if people, how many people do you say you don't like this guy just based on some, that's fine, that's okay, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I don't get offended by it. A good example of that is, there's a thing in TV Guide, I think Woody Harrelson said, oh, I was on Leno, I didn't like Leno, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was very early on. It was one of the first, like the first year of hosting. And these are the notes that they had given me. Ask Woody these questions. And Woody had come on and he had some kind of bath towel that he was selling, this round thing, you know. He wanted to give the phone number. And Fred said, don't do that. Don't let him sell a bath towel. You can't sell anything on the show. Just ask him those questions. I said, okay. So I asked him the questions on the list. And it went okay, nothing particularly. And I guess he took exception of it. I just saw it in the article. So I go, okay, he's got a valid point. You know, he said in the TV Guide, I think Jay's funny, but I didn't like the line of questioning. I didn't like this. So I'd like to have him on and give him another shot. If he still doesn't like me, well, sorry.
So you don't have any problem with that? Woody Harrelson tomorrow,
hey,
bingo, no problem.
For this kind of doll, please. Talking, please.
When you ran into Quayle, 6, 7 months ago, I think, you were at the White House or at Quayle's residence.
Yeah, no, I wasn't at Quayle's residence. We weren't playing Nintendo at his house, no.
You were walking down the street and Quayle was coming the other way? What was it?
I was at the White House and he happened to be there.
So what did he say?
I happened to be there. Huh?
He had more cause to be there.
I don't know. He was very nice. Hello, how are you? You know, shook hands, made some sort of silly jokes back and forward. And
See, I remember Gilda Radner saying one time that she met Barbara Walters, and all of a sudden, here was a real person. It wasn't Bob Wawawa anymore.
That is true. That's why I try not to sort of go to Washington. I don't want to meet these people because they are good salesmen. You know, you go. It becomes kind of like Network, you know, that scene where he brings the guy in the room and explains to him what's going on. I mean, he seemed very nice, and I met him. I met the president. The president was very nice, but I still did jokes about it. You know, you got to understand, we're doing jokes about what people say. I don't do Marilyn Quayle jokes. I don't do Barbara Bush jokes. These are people that just happen to be brought along. The fact that they're intelligent and nice people on their own, fine. They're not making policy. I mean, Nancy Reagan appeared to be making policy, so that was fair game. But those people in the background, I mean, I don't like when I see somebody do a Marilyn Quayle joke. Oh, she looks like this. I go, what are you picking on her for? She didn't open her mouth. She didn't say anything. She's not running for office. If someone says something, you can make fun of what they say. I mean, that seems fair. You know, I'm not going after some physical deformity or something of that nature.
But if there was a physical deformity to go after,
I would make fun
of it. I remember seeing you one time with Letterman, though, and you went off. This is a long time ago. It might have been 8, 9 years ago. You went off about the circus. Right? How
Oh,
you're
I got
just
more
not,
letters
you're just
from
not a
clowns.
circus guy.
Not a circus clown. I remember something about syphilitic clowns throwing anthrax spores to the children. Or
Right.
something.
Mutant
Yeah.
trolls coming out
Trolls
from under
coming out from
bridges.
under bridges, looking for summer jobs. Yeah, and I got letters from mutant trolls and whatnot. And we do not. Anthrax spores are no longer legal. You know, oh well, all right. I mean, it was such a broad characterization.
You remember the first time you saw The Tonight Show? Or remember The Tonight Show being something that was kind of there?
Yeah, with Steve Allen.
So predating Carson.
Oh, sure, sure. Steve Allen, I remember Steve. I like the way he does the comedy bits. He always was the straight man, which is what I like. If I do a sketch, I like being the guy. We got, sir, could you come here, please? You know, and it's Phil Hartman or it's some comedian dressed up as somebody. I mean, I like being that guy more than I like being the person in the costume. So in that respect, I identify with Steve Allen a little bit more.
There's a little bit of Steve Allen in your "Here's My Beef" thing you used to do. Like
Yeah,
Steve always
probably.
used to do that thing where he would have this mock outrage. He'd sometimes take the newspaper and say, "Look at this."
Well, actually, it was more Alan King, I think, for me as a kid, because he was always on Ed Sullivan, and he would come out and, while most comedians were talking about my wife and the kids with the long hair, the hair's so long, the pants are too, you know, whatever, all those kind of material, he would talk about the phone company and the insurance company, and that used to make me laugh. Again, Steve Allen was on so late. The few times I did see it, I didn't always catch a lot of that. Whereas Alan King always had material different from the other comics. You know, it wasn't the usual married men can't get sex kind of stuff. You know, he always had you know, insurance companies and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. What do you think's the key to staying power, and what's the definition of staying power
Oysters.
now? I'm happy to help. I'm just happy to help.
I think if the audience likes you. I mean, you know, Johnny Carson does not have a major star every night. I mean, he tries to. But people watch the show because they like Johnny, they like the monologue. And the monologue is a bigger key than most people think. You know, when I would watch all the other shows that came on, Dick Cavett, Merv Griffin, all went up against Johnny, they did a monologue for the first minimum 6 months. Then it would drop down to a few jokes. And then for the rest of their career on the show, it would be opening remark. We got a great show tonight. What are you going to play for us, so-and-so? Who we got?
Right.
You know, they wouldn't do because it takes a lot of work to do a monologue. That was always the thing I admired most about Johnny. He was always a comedian. He would always come on and do a monologue about whatever happened that day. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes indifferent. But he always had the jokes. And I think people watch the news and then they turn it on to see what's going to be said about it on The Tonight Show.
Has this scrutiny surprised you? It doesn't seem like you're overwhelmed by it.
The scrutiny?
The scrutiny leading up to...
No real scrutiny. Like what?
Well, all these articles that have been written, the cover of Time magazine. The obvious reason
Yeah,
is...
that was amazing to me. I have to admit, the cover of Time magazine, because mostly everything else is show businessy.
Yeah.
You know, somebody can get you the other things. You know, you can get in Variety, you can take out your own ad with your face in it and impress people about how much money you spend. But that was pretty amazing to me. Of course, that means nothing. You know, my mother, you know, I called her and I said, Emma, I'm going to be on the cover of Time magazine. Now, which one? Is that the TV Times? No, not TV Times, Ma. I said, Time magazine. You know, Time magazine, the big pause. And she says, no, we don't get that around here. No, Ma, you get it, Ma. It's Time magazine. I mean, it's Time. It's, you know, it's the big one. I don't know that. I'll ask Grace up the street, but I don't know that one.
See, the obvious thing here is that it's a national institution. It isn't just Carson's success, although that's a big part of it. It's the whole notion that this is, here's the torch, my boy, run with it, and that this somehow, in some way, means something to the country, more so than just a hit TV show. Whether it should or shouldn't, whether it does or does, that notion's out there.
Yeah, I guess it is. You know, being famous in comedy is like being, when you're on The Tonight Show, it's like being the most popular guy in your high school. And that's what show business is. Suddenly, America becomes your high school. I mean, I can go up to complete strangers on the street and go, hey, pal, nice tie, bink, ha-ha, and the guy go, you know, just like you would to somebody in high school, because they know you. They might not know you, but they know you now, because you know, you tweak them on the nose or something. If I was just a guy walking down the street and I said to a stranger, hey, pal, nice tie, bink, hey, oh, I get punched in the face. But for some reason, because I'm on TV and people know you, it's just like being in high school. You break down anywhere on the road, sir, hey, Jay, how you doing? I'll give you a lift, you know. Hey, where do you go to school? Oh, I live about 30 miles from here. You know, I mean, it is. That's what it's like. It's sort of like being, you're like the most popular guy in your high school.
Show going to be different 6 months from now?
Well, we have a new set, we have new curtains, we have a new band leader, we have a new band. The Tonight Show has always been traditionally big band music. We're going to go with something a little bit more contemporary.
More rock and roll stuff?
Well, not really rock and roll. If you know Branford, he's not a rock and roll guy, and he's not a funk guy. He's just a cool guy. I mean, you know, he's a sharp dresser. He knows everybody in the business and can play anything. Besides being a good guy, the reason we chose him was he's someone who the acts trust and the record companies trust. You know, there are a lot of acts that won't do TV because they're afraid the house band won't be able to play their charts or won't rehearse it enough or won't work on it enough. Whereas with Branford, he's someone, I mean, Sting and the Grateful Dead and Stevie Wonder and all these people have played with, and they want to play with him. So that's certainly a big plus. Plus, being black and having a lot of black members in the band, it gives us a more urban feel to the show. It makes the show more representative of what's out there. And that's not putting down anything that went in front of us. It's just times change, you know, and America changes. And I think it reflects, because people say to me, oh, are you trying to get the black market now? Sure, I'd love to have it. It's a great market. They buy products, they buy records, they go out, they see shows. Great. I think it's wonderful. Yeah, I'd love to have that market.
The landscape has changed so much that I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you, this is pretty obvious, that even if you on your own terms did everything as well as you could do it, you can't duplicate the past success of The Tonight Show.
Right.
Even The Tonight Show itself, with the advent of Nightline and cable television, Johnny doesn't get the same kind of share now and didn't in the 80s as he did at his peak in the 70s.
Right.
Now the market is fragmented. Whether these shows are successful
You know,
on their
you're
own
right.
terms...
I'm going to quit this. No, it's stupid.
you got Dennis Miller in there, and you got Arsenio, and you got all this stuff in there. So the terms for success are different.
That's good. I mean, by having Arsenio and Dennis Miller and Chevy Chase, if he comes in, you at least bring excitement back to late night. Would anybody watch this show if it was followed by two MASHs, a Love Connection, and a Laverne and Shirley? No. I mean, you know, it annoys me when I go to towns and the independent stations run 3 or 4 sitcoms in a row that I've seen a half a dozen times, and then you come on, or then somebody else. And where do you get your worst ratings? In those cities. Because people say, who wants to sit through something I've seen? You know, that the public is apathetic, nobody's watching anyway, let's stick this on. And it brings the whole level of it down. I mean, look what you've seen the last few months. The cover of TV Guide, Johnny, Arsenio, Dennis. I mean, you get people talking about late-night TV. You get them staying up. If they're not staying up, they're taping it. Oh, what did Dennis say about this? What did he say about that? I mean, it makes it exciting. I mean, you don't go to a sports event if there's only one team playing. So in a lot of ways, I think it's good. Will I try to beat all those shows? Yes. Will I try to get better guests and make the show funnier? Of course. And I assume they will too. But I think you bring the whole level up. I mean, you have to say to yourself, why does the overall viewing level drop? Because there's nothing on to watch. I mean, there's nothing on worth watching.
Do you like the notion then of late-night feuds, sort of Jack Benny, Fred Allen type feuds?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it if it... I assume you're talking about the Arsenio thing now. You know, if he had done that in a funny way, I think we could have had a lot of fun with it. You know, I've known him for a long time. I thought we were friends. He says in the article we're not. I don't know. He brought his mom to meet my wife. He came to see me in Vegas, came to see me in Tahoe, asked me to please go down when he got a star on Hollywood Boulevard, have my picture taken with him. It was in the paper. You know, it was just, it was so nasty an article. To answer it makes it look like there's some really mean thing going on.
I assume almost everybody knows, but he basically said, hey, I know him, we're acquainted, but we're not friends. I have real friends, and I have acquaintances, and I'm going to kick his ass.
You know, the kick the ass thing is okay, if you do it in a funny way. The part I didn't like was telling guests if they did the Tonight Show, they couldn't do his show, and it was an insult to have me on, and I didn't earn any of this the way he did. And I said, well, I mean, what do you do? How do you answer that? You know, plus you always run the risk of, oh, what's this going to become a racial feud now? I say something, you say something. So I just let it go. I mean, I'm on record saying I like his show. It's one of the best produced shows on TV. He does the music great, and it's a real good show. And it isn't what he's taken from The Tonight Show. He's brought an audience to TV that wasn't there before. To kind of go after it with this mean-spirited sort of attack, I'll let it go.
So you wouldn't mind then if he came out, had a good, well-thought-out zinger for you, then the next night you fire back at him, and it was some sort of thing like that?
I wouldn't mind that, but it seems to be beyond that. I mean, I found the tone of the article so mean and insulting. You know, if you want to insult my chin or the way I look or my cars or something, yeah, that's okay. But to say it's an insult to have them on TV and I didn't earn any of this, really? You really think I didn't earn any of this? Okay, whatever you say, you know, fine.
Would you like to come back tomorrow?
Oh, I can't. I'm going to be busy.
Really?
If I come back tomorrow, can I wear the exact same clothes?
A joke that's been used on this show shockingly before, but the answer is yes.
All right, fine.
All right, he'll be back, so will you, we hope, and see you later.